let's look at an example of a page that uses cookies. A brief recap? Sure. So again, these points, we're not going to use cookies in this class for this course directly. We'll use sessions that are built on top of cookies. And so the way sessions behave is dictated by how cookies behave. So that's why we're talking about cookies, and they're useful in themselves. By the way, sessions are using one cookie that is a customer ID and keeping everything else on the server. That's the main idea of a session. So a cookie is a key value pair. This key value pair lives on the client machine. I didn't stress that before, but we don't keep track of it on the server. The client keeps it, which kind of means we can't ever totally trust that we're getting a good, the cookie we're getting back is the cookie that we assigned or that we asked the client to keep. The client might be an idiot, might be malicious, might be giving back false data. Okay, and of course the cookie is a key value pair, and that's a lie. There's actually about 6 other attributes there. Expiration date, the domain and the directory path. Let me just talk real briefly about a couple of gotchas there. Clearly you want to set a cookie for a certain site and a cookie for, usually for that entire site, for the path slash, but you might go ahead and have a subpath. Why would you ever have a subpath? A good example is our school here. Everybody is accessing the server php.radford.edu. You want to set a cookie for your site. It needs to be for the machine php.radford.edu and your subdirectory ~ibarland or tilde your username maybe. And it could even be ~ibarland / itech325 / project7, something like that. So you could have that. Try not to make 2 different cookies with the same path, but even if it's slash, but different domains where one is a superset of the other. Okay, like don't make a cookie whose domain is slash and amazon.com and then another cookie with the same name whose domain is smiles.amazon.com and whose path is slash. You're just asking for trouble there. Those are 2 separate cookies. You probably didn't mean them to be 2 separate cookies and might be confusing them. So, and likewise, usually I wouldn't suggest in general making a cookie or 2 cookies with the same domain but different path, same domain, same name but different paths. But that can happen sort of inadvertently here on our campus network. I have some cookie that I set for iBarland, and some other user, JC Davis, has a cookie they set, and they happen to use the same cookie name. We both use the cookie name favorite kitten color. Okay, and now it's, well, I guess that's actually a good use where, hey, I don't need to worry about his names at all. He doesn't need to worry about mine, and that's why I might go ahead and set my the path to iBarland or something, a sub path of overall PHP Radford edu. In real life, that doesn't really happen, right? In real life, you're working on a website, you tend to control the entire server and have access to all your cookies. I suggest trying to maybe use slash for the directory for all those cookies, so you don't need to worry about where it's used, and make sure all your different projects have some sort of naming convention for their cookies, so no 2 projects have the same cookie name. Okay, that'd be my suggestion. Okay, okay, let's go look at an actual example. Okay. So cookie setting example, and I've gone up and we have a whole page here. I've gone up and I'm showing my developer tools. Okay, so first of all, I want to show for this request that I just made, I want to go to the page here and I want to look at the headers. We've done this before, but look at these headers and notice that, I don't really care about general synopsis. Response headers, I'll come back to that. Let me look at request headers. So I'm not sure what provisional headers are shown means. Let me try reloading the page here. Looking at that in more detail. There we are. Okay, now we don't get this provisional stuff. I'm not sure what went there. I loaded the page a while back, so I'm not sure. Okay, and I'm going to actually say a view source. Okay, this is the actual bytes that went over the wire here. So when I made the request, I went off to this page, and this page is going to set some cookies. Okay. I just want to point out that right now when I make that request, you look at there's a get and a host and a connection, cache control, user agent, cookie, and there are a whole bunch of cookies that are being set here. So expt file, session ID, session language, bad protocol, that doesn't sound good, FOS web server, Luminous 3. Okay, and a whole bunch of things, and I don't quite know why these are here or where they're coming from. Okay, so these are cookies that got sent along with the request. When I clicked on this link just now on the lectures page, those were the cookies that were sent along. I'm showing this now just to show that there's nothing whose name makes sense. We're going to add some cookies ourselves, and they're not here yet. Okay. Okay. And by the way, I'm going to look at the response headers. And I'll again view the source. Response headers had a bunch of, a few things going on, not a whole lot in the response headers there. Okay, so and let me just look at the end of the request headers. It looks like those cookies were the last line. Okay, so here's what we have on this page. We have a little form. Okay, great. Font size, I could choose something there. I'll choose extra small. And font color, I'll choose as green. And I will submit. Okay, I'm submitting right now. We're going to go through. It turns out this page submits to itself. It's kind of interesting. We'll talk more about that when we talk about sticky forms. Let me go and look at the request headers that were made. Request headers, post, host, keep alive, cookie, all those cookies sent, and form data. So we see here, we see the key value pairs being sent. Font size was XX small, color was green. The happy submit button, that was the name attribute of that button, was submittee. Okay, sounds good. Let's look at. So I went ahead and gave that information to the server. What did the server get back to us? It gave us back a page and so on, but let me look at the request headers, and I'm going to view source here. Response headers. Sorry. Response headers. HTTP 1.1, 200, okay. And here's what I want to look at. There were 2 set cookie requests included with the response. Okay, so I filled out the form and hit submit. That made a request to the server. Server came back, and in the header is, hey, please set a cookie font size to be XX small and color to be green. Okay. Yeah, so fair enough. If I now go and look at my cookies, since I just got this response back, my browser did just now make those cookies. Let's go to the check them out page. We'll come back to this page to see how that set cookie got generated. Let's go to the check them out though. And we get a little page saying, hey, our preferences really are being respected, yada, 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 in tiny and extra small green. Okay, so, and let me go to these headers here. When I clicked on that link to the, check it out, what was the request that was made? I clicked on some link. The request that was made had a cookie, and we see the first 2 cookies here are font size XX small, color green. So those cookies did get given to this particular page. Okay. Great. The response header. Does the response header have setting more cookies here? Not if it didn't want to set further cookies, and it didn't. So there's no set cookie lines in the response header. The server didn't say, oh, hey, by the way, client, please remember this key value pair for future use. We'd done that on the previous page, and then this page, we included those when we made our request, and somehow the server used those. Okay, let's go look at this page here and see how the server used it. First of all, I'm going to do a show source, just to see where we're going. It's an HTML page. In the HTML page, we have some CSS. We have a font size XX small and color green. It turns out XX small and green are valid CSS values for these particular attributes. Okay, by dumb luck. How did we look at that? Let's look at this, the PHP source. I'm going to go now get rid of these windows. We're not going to show them anymore. Here's what my PHP code looked like for this page. Style, we saw that tag. Body, so the style for the body tag. Font size is, and then we have a little PHP block here. Echo, and then we check. Does the array key font size exist in the array underscore cookie? If so, go ahead and use cookie of font size. Use that thing that was stored in our post, sorry, not in the post array, in the cookie array. Use the cookie and splice that. So again, we gave that information to the server. The server, making its response, went ahead and used some of those cookies and built, took those values and put them into the response that it's giving back as HTML to the person requesting the page. So the client gave the cookie, the server used those cookies to inform its decision about what to return. Okay. If that cookie had not existed, by the way, we'll just go ahead and use size would be medium. So font size colon, and then we enter this little conditional. Echo, if this is true, this string, else that string. Okay. By the way, cookie of font size, do we need to go ahead and call HTML special chars on that, or am I just being sort of paranoid there? We need to do that. Why? Who gave us this cookie? The client did. I mean, we asked them to save a cookie called font size earlier, and we'll double back to see what the actual code that did that. But we said, hey, client, in the future, if you ever visit us, please, if you come and visit us, please use the key value font size and its value XX small. But we can't trust the client really did that, okay? So the client gave us back some string. If we're going to take that string and splice it into the middle of an HTML page, we'd better call HTML special chars on it. Make sure they're not trying to insert some sort of script or something like that. Okay, so yeah, that's how the server uses cookies. We go ahead and use the array underscore cookie. It's pretty common. You don't want to trust anything that was in a cookie, so if anything you use in there, if you're echoing it, you want to call HTML special chars. If you're just using it for some other value, just keep in mind, hey, I told them to keep track of something, but I didn't keep track of it myself. Maybe they're lying to me. So, okay. Sounds good. That's how we use cookies. By the way, we've seen this pattern before in one of the homeworks, I think. Look if the array key exists in post. If it does, go ahead and use it. Otherwise, use some default value. And I had some special function I wrote for that called safe lookup that was very generic, which did exactly this. Hey, look inside an array. If the array key exists, return it. Otherwise, use a default value. So this, if we're extending on code from previous homework solutions, and you have that safe lookup from previous solution, this is exactly where I'd use it rather than doing this whole, I would just say echo safe lookup of, etc. I'd probably echo HTML special chars of safe lookup of da da da. Okay. The one thing we haven't seen, we've mentioned how to set cookies in PHP code, but we haven't actually seen it. Let's go back. The cookie setting example, where we went ahead and did a form that goes ahead and does this things here. So we'll make it extra large and off teal. and submit. So I just submitted. It submits back to the same page. So it looks, let's look at the code that was there. And at the very beginning of the code, well, we have a setting a variable called title. If array key exists, the happy submit button of post. So first remember in that form, I named that button the happy submit post. If somehow, so this is a side issue that we'll come back to when we talk about sticky forms. There's two ways to get to this page. One is by navigating straight to it, in which case there is no form submitted with it. Or you can be on this page, choose these menus or not, and hit the submit button, which comes back to this page. Okay? If that happens, there are some key value pairs in post. One of those key value pairs will be the name of this button, which is the happy submit button. Okay. So what is this line saying? This line is saying, hey, if we got to this page by somebody pressing the submit button, okay? They either pressed the submit button or they came here directly from another page to this URL. Okay, if they submitted, then we have stuff in post. Go ahead and whatever was in post of font size, stick into, say, hey, set cookie of font size to be whatever post of font size was. And we're going to make a cookie named color to be whatever post of color was. Those are the name attributes for these two drop-downs. And by the way, I'll just mention that there's about 4 names that could all be different. It'd be insane to make them different. But here's what they are. There's the name of the CSS font size, okay? And its value like XX small. Okay, so font size : XX small. That's valid CSS, okay? Then there's what we put into the post array. That's the name attributes that we get here. I might as well have the name attribute of this menu be color, because that's what the CSS attribute is thing. And the name attribute of this drop-down menu be font size, because that's the CSS name. Okay, so that was the name attribute there. We use those in the post. We're going to set the cookie with those same names. I want to set a cookie that corresponds to these things. I could call it anything I want, but I'm going to say, hey, set cookie, and I'm going to call it font size. So I don't have to continually think about which name is what, which one is the cookie, which one is the post array, which one is the CSS that I want to use. I don't need to worry about those 3 things. Okay, if the array key exists, go ahead and set those cookies. And we set a variable called message. Okay. Otherwise, we set this variable message to something different. Okay. Then we go and we print our web page. We exit PHP mode. Everything down here is an implicit print until we re-enter PHP mode. Okay. Great. So we go along, echo that message there, have more drop downs. Okay. So the only thing that looks different on the page is what the message was, depending on whether or not we submitted. But the other difference is, hey, we called set cookie. What does that do? That says, as the server was assembling this response to give back to the client, in addition to sending back, here's the HTML, up in the header block, it went ahead and set those 2 cookies, the ones that we saw in the HTTP headers a moment ago. So set cookie is the function that we call, and the one thing that's tricky about calling set cookie, where does that cookie information go again? It goes in the HTTP header. You know, the HTTP response packet. It has a header and then the payload, which is all the HTML that we printed. The header gets sent first. Okay, that's just how headers work. That's why they're headers, I guess. So if you want to set a cookie, it has to be in the header. The moment, if you have a PHP program, the moment you start printing something, it starts printing the payload, the body. And it says, hey, I guess we're done with the header. That's what PHP thinks for you. I guess we're done with the header, so you can't put anything else in the header after that. So here's one of the gotchas mentioned on the page. If you're going to set a cookie, call set cookie before you actually print any real data. Okay? Otherwise, that call to set cookie won't be in time to make it into the header, and it won't be there at all. So, For this class, again, we won't worry too much about it since we're going to use sessions, but the parallel idea is that we're going to have to start our session before we actually print anything out. So, okay, so you can go ahead and pour over the source code for these 2 pages and try using them and see what happens. And the point is, all this is done with cookies. No information was stored on the server. And on all, when you go to the check them out page, we get information, that request to the cookies view settings PHP just now. That request included a couple of cookies. Our server used those cookies to generate the response. Okay, sounds good. I think we're pretty happy about that. Good.